Hello, friends. Today we're going to dive into the world of mystery, riddles, and horror. Reddit is a place where people share their strangest and most frightening stories. Some of them make you think, while others leave goosebumps on your skin. Ready? Then let's get started. First story. Weirdest thing I've ever experienced. I live in a small mountain town and it takes 3 hours and 4 mountain passes to get to the nearest city. Pre-COVID I made that drive 2 to 3 times a month, over a period of 10 years. I pretty much had the curves and climbs committed to memory. One night I'm making the drive at 2 a.m. to catch an early flight. Cruising the curves and enjoying the lack of semi-trucks. Left curve, right curve, no, there's a big sweeping curve to the left coming up when all of a sudden I'm driving on a straight road. I'm well aware there isn't a straight section on that highway for another 30 miles. So immediately I'm looking around trying to figure out where the hell I am. Not a single highway sign on the side of the road. Smack myself a few times to make sure I hadn't fallen asleep. Phone has no service, but that's normal, so I can't check my location. Looking out the window I realize the high desert scrub trees have been replaced with a thick forest. Imagine your headlights pick up dark, heavy, can't see 10 feet, forest that I would imagine in the Pacific Northwest. Something that we don't have here. I'm looking at the clock and for 15 minutes I'm driving on a straight road through this ominous dark forest when I should be on a curvy mountain pass in the desert. Right about the time I'm going to have a full-on panic attack, that sweeping left curve appears and I'm out of the forest back in the scrub. So I chalked it up to drowsy driving and an overreactive imagination until it happened again. 2 years later, same spot except this time I'm not alone. I had my brother riding shotgun on a similar airport run, and all of a sudden I'm on the straight road. That time it only lasted about 5 minutes before my brother looked around and asked, "Where the hell are we?" Cue the sweeping left curve appearing and back in the desert. Even though I can't explain it, I'm at least grateful I had a witness. Okay, that was really scary. Let's go to the next story. When I was little I had an extremely vivid dream. A building with a huge set of stairs leading up to 2 separate doors on either side. My dad and I sat on the stairs as I watched my sister and mother walk into the door on the right. Immediately I felt their lives were in danger, so, unbeknownst to my dad, I walked up the stairs and went into the door on the right. I was immediately face to face with a conductor whose flesh was falling off its bones, hair dangling from its scalp and eyes popping out of its sockets, conducting a loud unseen orchestra. I burst into tears and screamed, running out the building and past my dad. That's where the dream ended. Flash forward to 8th grade. My band class won a trip to Mackinac Island. We arrived at our hotel on Michigan's mainland, then made our way to the ferry. Landing on the island, my group opted for bikes, cars aren't allowed on the island, and started strolling. Then I saw it. The building in my dream. Huge steps, 2 doors on either side. Just as creepy looking now as it was in my dream. I stopped, not caring that my friends were riding ahead of me. I couldn't believe it. It was real. It had a sign that read "The Haunted Theater." It was a haunted house attraction, but I hated haunted houses, so why was this thing in my dream? The trip continued with weird deja vu sitting in the back of my head. When I finally got home I asked my mom, "Did we go to Mackinac Island when I was a kid?" She said yes. "Did you and sis go in a creepy little haunted house?" She said yeah, they did. I proceeded to tell her that all these years I thought it was a bad dream. She laughed and confirmed that, yes, it did happen and I did get the shit scared out of me trying to follow them into the attraction. Reality felt a little bent after that, lol. The attraction is still open today. I'd recommend it. When I was 15 I had a dream that I was looking up through the inside of a car and a woman walked past, stopped to look down at me and gave me a smile. I moved countries to go to college and studied mechanical engineering, which required some hands-on work. In my second year, when I was 17, I was tasked with stripping a Mini for parts and after tipping it onto its roof as underneath stripping the handbrake cable out. I looked up and there was exactly the same woman, who happened to be in my class, from my dream 2 years previously, smiling at me. Later that month we were having lunch when she mentioned that when she looked down she had the weirdest feeling. I told her about my dream and it turned out she had had the same dream from the other angle. One time when I was a kid, my friend and I were out adventuring near a big factory in our city that was surrounded by tons and tons of trees that weren't cared for. My friend wanted to go on the tree grounds to look for lizards and cicadas, and I followed him around. We shuffled through trees and bushes. After a while he said he noticed something inside a gap in a tree, so he picked up a stick to poke at the gap. I was on the other side of the tree. All of a sudden I just heard him yell, "Super huge spider." I turned around to face the tree and along came this massive, quick as hell green brownish looking spider, the size and morphology just like a facehugger from the Alien movies, that crawled in a spiral downwards the tree. Having never witnessed anything like that my whole life, I yelped like a little bitch at the sight of it and took off running as fast as I could, my friend right behind me. After a few seconds he said, "Wait. Let's go back to get a good look at it." But there was no way in hell I'd want to go anywhere near that thing. However, after much convincing I agreed go to back, but only if we stay the hell away a good distance. So we found our way back to that tree and that cursed thing is still hanging around there, staying unmoving, not even micro movements. We tried to get the best look at it as we could while trying to stay at a safe distance. I remember that it had long legs just like the facehugger, just minus the tail. One strange thing about it was it had this white and pinkish looking disc of flesh under its body that's wider than the body itself. My friend got a longer stick to poke at the thing and made it move a bit before it moved around to the other side of the tree where we can't see it anymore. We would have to get closer to the tree in order to get to the other side of it, and frankly at that point we were both too freaked out to do that, so we just booked it out of there. Later on we told our other friends about it and no one believed us. I've had a few strange experiences in my life, but here's one of the creepier ones I've personally had. My parents live in a house built in the 1760s on the coast of southern Maine. It's a center chimney cape with a long L off the back. When they first purchased the house I did some research on the property and the owners through the years. The house was built by the Eaton family, and was handed down through the family from generation to generation until about 1860, when it was sold. Between 1820 and 1830 the Eaton family lost both parents and 8 of the 9 children to premature death. Most of them died of tuberculosis. I had returned home from college to stay with my parents during winter break. January in Maine is bitter cold, and in an 18th century house, all the more so. My little sister, who was about 15 at the time, and I were sharing a bed, partially for warmth, partially because I'm a sissy and the damn old place has always creeped me out a bit. The bed was in a downstairs front room of the house. The only other person in the house at the time was my younger brother, who was in the back L, far across the house from us. I woke up around 8 a.m., rather abruptly because I could hear intensely labored breathing coming from my sister. At first I thought she must have come down with a terrible cold and was really congested. I lay there for a couple minutes and then finally rolled over to check on her because it sounded awful, like an asthma attack or a death rattle. When I rolled over I immediately saw she was on her side facing me, wide-eyed. She whispered, "That's not you?" The noise continued and it was loud, there was nothing subtle about it, and it was coming from the bed, directly between us. We jumped out of bed, checked under the bed, checked the entire room, and the while, the breathing continued. Finally, at a loss we just stood on either side of the bed, facing each other and listened in disbelief. It stopped abruptly. I have no explanation for that. My parents have owned the house for almost 10 years since then, and a variety of odd things have happened, though no one else has ever heard the labored breathing, which I rather think is just what it would sound like if, say, a person were dying of tuberculosis. This apparently happened to my dad. He told me a couple years ago about this one event that freaked him out. It was around 2002 when we had just moved into a new house. My dad was unpacking while my stepmom was at work and I was at school. My little brother was home sick and sleeping in his bedroom. So my father is unpacking and found his old Polaroid camera and starts playing with it. He decides to sneak into my brother's room to get a cute picture of him sleeping. He was about 6 at this time and really adorable. He opens the door and sees my brother curled up on the ledge right beside the window, his face turned away from my dad and against the glass. My dad is standing by the door and snaps a picture, quietly closing the door. As the picture develops, my brother suddenly comes out of the bathroom at the other end of the hall, crying because he was sick. My father is astonished and knows there was no way for little brother to get from the bedroom to the bathroom in mere seconds and without being seen. He opens the door quickly to check inside and nothing is there. The clincher is the picture. After getting my brother settled and back to sleep, my dad takes a look at the photograph. What should have been my brother sleeping with his head turned away became a picture of a little boy facing my father, the lower half of his face blurry and red. My dad doesn't believe in ghosts, but he was pretty freaked. He showed the picture to my stepmother and her sister. They kept it in a box in their bedroom and apparently used it as a nice conversation piece for a few years until we moved out of the house. One of our basement walls collapsed and it was unsafe to live there. It seems to have been lost in the move. I never had the pleasure of seeing the picture myself, but loads of my family saw it and they all agree it was creepy. We never experienced anything else abnormal in the house. So, friends, what do you think of these stories? Maybe you also have something to tell? Write in the comments, and if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the world of mysteries and riddles.